Hi, this video is called The Two Books I Read That Led Me to My Prediction of People versus Corporations. And I read them like 18 years ago, 2003. So 2003, this is my posting, and what I wrote back then, this is December of 2003. It says, yeah, blah, blah, my current analysis, which concludes that during Mr. Bush's second term, a bit, hasty, because really it didn't become evident to all of us until recently. Um, we'll be getting it. This crisis, I argue, will be as dangerous to the survival of America as were like World War II, the Great Depression, American Revolution, Civil War. And then I say further, this analysis concludes that the impending crisis will involve a struggle for America between people and corporations. And I came to that conclusion because I read two books. And here's my analysis for, go through one of the books. It's called The Fourth Turning. And it kind of goes through the fourth turning. And I'll just click into that first one. The Fourth Turning is this book. It's written by these authors, Strauss and Howe. They have a theory that every 20 years or so we go through a different generation. This is where the phrase boomer and millennial and Gen X, all that, it comes out of this kind of a theory, right? Social theory. And then every 80 years, every fourth cycle is an existential American war. And this theory goes back 500 years before there was an America. Obviously America is only 250 years, 300 years old, but going back 600 years to the War of the Roses. So this is an interesting book. I read that in 2003, and I also read this book, When Corporations Rule the World, by a former governmental guy who was, international, named David Korten, and he basically just said anything we do internationally, it's a corporate agenda. And so why did I read those two books? Because that's when the Iraq War started, and shortly after 9/11, like a lot of Americans, I never really paid attention to Afghanistan or Al Qaeda or any of this stuff, or didn't know the different sects in the Muslim world. But I learned all that stuff in the early 2001 2002. It's just like, oh, why did they attack us, and who are they, and like what's going on. And so you read enough about it, you knew that the Iraqis had nothing to do with 9/11, nothing, right? But you had to sort of pay attention to who were the Iraqis, what were the sects in there, and what was Saddam, and what were the people in the south, and then the people in the north, the Kurds in the north, and the Shiites in the south, and the Sunni sect that and I'm just saying, it was clear they had nothing to do with Bin Laden and Al Qaeda and all that. In fact, they hated each other. These two, they were combatants. But I'm not a typical American who just doesn't even study that stuff, and so just bought it hook, line, and sinker from the U.S. government. And then it was right around the time Bush stood up and told the world, you're either with us or against us, and we're starting this war on terror. And I just smelled something in the air, I just felt like that was clearly a gambit for oil, that war, because it was not true that these people, WMDs and Al Qaeda and all that stuff that was in the media, I could tell it was just false at the time. And so I said, well, what's it really about? I thought, well, maybe it's the oil, and then that led me to thinking about corporations. So that's why I read When Corporations Rule the World. And then I realized there was some kind of political shifts going on. I'm old enough to remember the 60s, and then the time of Reagan, and then this time, and it just felt like there's these political seasons. That's what led me to Fourth Turning, and the idea that these political seasons are tied to generations. So I read those two books at the same time, and I'm probably one of the few people in 2003 who read both of those books. But reading those two books is what led me to think, oh, okay, our next existential crisis in America, the next one, is people versus corporations. So it's an analytical theory. It's not a lived theory where I'm out in the street or I'm occupying Wall Street. I didn't do any of that. I'm just a bookworm, right? So I'll get into how that analysis worked in another video.